I have the amazing pleasure to introduce Rae-Anne. And she is a mental health educator, and she is an amazing woman in many levels. She is a businesswoman. She runs not only one of her own business, but she runs several of her own businesses. She's also a healer, and she wears many, many hats. She's also building sorry, I forgot. It's not a retreat, but
first women's shelter in Ghana.
A women's shelter in Ghana, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And it's gathering money from where, making magic to gather money to build this amazing women's shelter in Ghana.
Yeah, that's us.
So,
yeah.
Yes, and you keep yourself super, super, super busy and doing
Yes.
a lot of spiritual stuff, but also a lot of very important things and helping a lot of people with the mental health. So please share with us your soul wisdom.
Oh, gosh. How have we only got 20 minutes? Thank you for the beautiful intro, Monica. Hi, everyone. As Monica said, I do lots of different things. So I guess my main field is mental health training. So I have a training company where I deliver an internationally recognised accreditation called Mental Health First Aid. And I'm what's called a principal master instructor of that. But I also develop and write a lot of other content, everything from self-care using positive psychology approaches, because that's my background, through to hosting mindfulness retreats here in Bali and doing a whole range of other stuff like that. As well as Monica said, we're building the very first women's shelter in Ghana. So everything we do kind of supports that in some way. And for me, working in mental health, I haven't always been in mental health. I've had lots of different jobs over my time, mainly in management and leadership development for federal government and not-for-profits. And what ended up happening is I started my own training company with the idea of doing leadership development training using mindfulness-based practices, because that's my field. But I ended up finding that the call for mental health just was bigger than anything else. And so that's what I mainly do. And so while I teach evidence-based stuff, I also have lived experience in that I have lived with depression and anxiety for my entire life. And out of that, I guess, has come the need for me to do my best to teach this information in a way that is simplified for everybody, and in a way that gets us talking about mental illness with the same way that we talk about our broken arm or our asthma. That's my dream for the world. And out of that, so that's what I do a lot of the time. I've also had to learn, though, the hard way, how to take care of myself when I didn't really always notice the warning signs early on when things were getting on top of me. And even just before I came here, literally 2 weeks before I came here, I had a meltdown of sorts. A few major things happened in our life, and the black dog swallowed me whole for a couple of weeks, and I knew I was coming here. And as soon as I land here, I feel home. But one of the important things for me, apart from letting it get, those three things that happened were outside of my control. So they were external factors that impacted on me. But what I do know now is what things keep me well that I can do to maintain my health and well-being, but also what things I can say no to, yes to, and all that sort of stuff. And that's how I maintain my wellness normally. And so out of that came my book, which Monica's got a copy of, but it's called Have You Been Outside Today? 108 Things You Can Do to Get Out of a Funk, because I wanted people to realise that you don't actually have to go out and spend enormous amounts of money or necessarily have to see a professional in that moment, because professionals aren't always just at your beck and call anyway. You might be having to wait to get in to see someone or things like that. So I wanted some simple things that people could do to take control of their own health. And so I wrote this book, and in that is also chapters on self-care, and in the back there's 19 stories of people sharing their experiences and how they keep themselves well. And so for me, I guess my focus these days is doing the best I can to stay well, and with that is the same stuff that anybody can use to stay well, whether or not they've got a mental illness or not, because the sort of stuff I'm talking about is getting really good sleep. Sleep's my number one, because if you don't sleep well, you don't feel like exercising, you don't feel like making a healthy meal, you don't feel like socializing, all that sort of stuff. So eating well is sleeping well is good, is one. Moving, we now know that 30 minutes of movement a day is as effective in treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants alone. That's actually scientifically proven now. There's no argument about that. So all you need to do is go out and have a walk. And I always say to people, I've never got back from a walk and said, geez, I wish I didn't go for that walk. It's always like, why don't I do that every day, you know? So movement, and it doesn't have to cost money, just move for 30 minutes a day. The other one is eating well. We all know garbage in, garbage out. The problem is when you feel like crap, you feel like eating crap, and then the more crap you eat, the worse you feel. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. I mentioned that when you don't feel like going out, you don't connect with other people. Connecting with anyone, any humans, is so important. As human beings, we're wired for connection. This is our default. We grew up in tribes. We grew up in communities. And these days we spend so much time disconnected. And as you would know, Monica, from your cultural background, and certainly my husband's, and here in Bali, you never have to be alone. There's always someone you can talk to or connect with, share a meal with, have a chat to. And in the West, we live such isolated lives, and the more we can connect with others, the better. So they're sort of my top ones. And then I've got other ones like writing, gratitude. Gratitude's an amazing practice that you can use to, it's been proven now to improve health and well-being and improve depression and anxiety levels by having a gratitude practice. And it doesn't have to be a formal practice. Like some people like to write down, you know, this is what I'm grateful for today. I love doing that. But even having a state of gratitude. So even if you're having a really bad day, you can sort of think to yourself, wow, okay, I've got legs, I can walk, I've got eyes, I can see, I've got somewhere to sleep, I've got food in my belly. Even when you're having the worst days, you can still find something to be grateful for. And that's been proven. Again, this is why I love positive psychology. It's science proving what us hippies have always known, really. Kindness, acts of kindness is another one that's been proven to have benefits for the giver. And even better if people don't know that you're doing it. Like if you keep it a little bit secret, it has a bit more magic. What's the other one that I like to share? Oh, meditation or any kind of quiet reflective practice. It doesn't have to be a formal practice, but any kind of time where you're sitting reflectively. Lots of others, but they're my basics, yeah.
My favorite is dancing.
Yes, absolutely. Anything.
Favorite.
Well, there you go. That's movement. And my girlfriend that's here in Perth with me, she's on the other side of the computer reading a book. She dances. That's her practice. She dances, even if it's for 30 seconds, she dances every day. That's her practice. Yeah. So yeah, anything that gets you moving, gets you into your body. We spend so much time up here, and we actually need to remember what it feels like to be in here. And to do that, we need to move our bodies. Yeah.
That is great. I didn't know all this has been scientifically proven. You know that
yes.
It actually helps with depression. And unfortunately, we are so over medicated for depression when there are so many tools that you can use rather than medication.
Or with medication.
With medication, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I love about positive psychology. So to give you an example, one of my clients is WorkCover, or in South Australia, they're called Return to Work SA. And they've actually got a fantastic wellbeing program for staff. And I'm running a back-to-back series of gratitude workshops for them. Now, without evidence, you can't get into organisations or government or what have you to run workshops like that. But now I can actually go in and I get to actually spend time teaching someone gratitude. That gets me off.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like what I keep saying, this is my new motto. What if it's the hippies, the ones that run the world, the ones that have the money, the ones that run the workshops, that run the schools, that
Absolutely.
run the
Yeah,
hospitals,
absolutely.
the government. Let's the hippies
Totally.
over the world.
Absolutely. And what I love now is so my interest in positive psychology and mindful leadership actually goes back a long, long time when I was running leadership development training for Centrelink managers. And thanks, Ari. Sorry, that was a lady bringing my laundry. I didn't know she was here. I used to run a course called Resilience and Self-Care. And at the end of one of the workshops, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a meditation. And what's the worst that can happen? They don't like it and I won't do it again. So at the end of every course, you have your feedback sheets, and the course went over 3 days. There was a lot of stuff in there. And on the feedback sheets, what did you like? What was the weaknesses? What do you want to see more of? And over half of them said they wanted to see more meditation. And I'm like, whoa, this is really interesting, because it's not a setting that I would traditionally have thought would have really embraced it. So then I went off and I've actually got qualifications in positive psychology and mindful leadership. And that really excites me, that I can now go into workplaces and teach this stuff. And they're really open about it. And we, at WorkCover at the end of last year for Christmas, we did a reflection activity and we built a gratitude wall. I mean, far out. That's just awesome. Wow. So, that's the stuff that is, and when you feel good doing something. I mean, that's the thing. When you're doing something, so I'll give an example of flow. Flow is another positive psychology concept. When you're doing something, so to get in a state of flow, or some people call it the zone, it essentially means you're losing all track of time. So for some people, it might be painting. For some people, it might be drawing or gardening. It's got to have a certain level of difficulty to it, but a sense of achievement at the end. And when you get into that state of flow, when you lose all sense of time, and I don't mean scrolling on Facebook, because I can lose hours there on that too. What you've actually achieved is a state of flow, right? But the beautiful thing about flow, apart from the fact that it feels good when you're doing it, the brain is actually releasing high levels of dopamine when you're in that state. And the levels of dopamine remain in the brain far after you've completed the activity. And so what it means is that if you're doing something that you enjoy, you really enjoy it, chances are you're releasing dopamine. And so the body and the brain are going to love you. So just do things you love, whatever they are. My philosophy on life is I'll do anything as long as it's legal and no one gets hurt. And so it's not actually hard. You just find something that you really, really enjoy doing, and chances are your brain's going to thank you for it.
I really like it. It is beautiful.
Me too.
I'm sure I'm not alone in here. You're really putting us all to think. It's like, wow, when am I in flow?
Yeah, totally. And I always say to my clients, because I do counselling and coaching too, if you don't have a flow activity, go and find one, and you'll have fun finding it, because you might try half a dozen things until you find what it is. But it's really good for everyone to have a flow activity, because when we're born, we only have a certain amount of dopamine receptors in our brain. And we never actually develop any more dopamine receptors. In fact, as we age, we lose a few, but if we lose too many, we get Parkinson's disease. It's actually a really delicate balance we walk with dopamine. Yeah. So the more you can do to keep that dopamine flowing in a healthy way. So the reason people like ice, for instance, the reason ice is so powerful is it releases enormous floods of dopamine into the brain. So there's obviously unhealthy ways to get dopamine as well. So a healthy way to get dopamine is do something that you love and that you really enjoy, and you feel good when you do it. And then the brain will just continue to produce those dopamine levels.
No, that's why probably they call it natural high. I get a natural high from drawing or from dancing.
There's a combination of things that happen with that.
Nice, that's great. And so how does mental health and addiction, play together? Because it's so easy to find relief. It's like, oh, well, I know that at the pub, if I'm drinking with my friends, I want that can be my flow, but it's not a healthy flow. So it's so easy to get
to 2 point. Yes. Yeah. So with flow, you've got to have a certain level of difficulty to it, and there needs to be an achievement. So obviously then drinking at the pub doesn't come into that.
Okay.
But we know that people with depression, anxiety, and any mental illness actually have a larger predisposition to self-medicate. Because if you think about it, if your anxiety is really, really high in that moment, or you're feeling really depressed, and you know that you can just have a sip of something or a chuff of something and you're going to feel better, you're going to do that. That's a human nature. We want a quick result. So there is very high levels of substance misuse in people with mental illness. But if you get to the bottom of why people misuse substances, and when I talk about substance misuse, I'm talking about it having an adverse effect on your life, not a drink at the pub on the weekends.
Yeah.
When it starts to impact on, we look at 4 things to decide if someone's having an impact. We look at liver. So are they having health problems? Or are they having lover? Are they having relationship problems? Livelihood? Are they having any problems maintaining a job? And law, are they getting into any legal problems? If somebody has any one of those 4 things caused by the substance, so losing your license or losing your job or having a relationship breakdown or something, then you would say, okay, this person has a substance use disorder. But underneath that, when you get to the bottom of it, happy people don't tend to have substance use disorders. It tends to be people that have underlying mental health issues, and they've unknowingly or maybe knowingly self-medicated to mitigate the symptoms.
And I know that you teach a lot or you have taught us so far a lot of information on how to help ourselves. How can we help someone if we live with someone that has mental health problems? How can we get them motivated to change and to want to move and to want to eat healthy and to get off the TV, for example? Because there are many addictions, watching TV, video games can be one of them.
Absolutely. So what you've asked me is essentially a really big question in a short space of time. So to give you an example, the 2-day course I run, that's what we talk about. Yep. But in a nutshell, the best thing you can do for anyone is listen to them. Just listen non-judgmentally. Then the non-judgmental is so important with that, and to hold that space for a person without jumping to solutions, without judging them, without being negative in their choices, but really be present. And if you think about our current society, we find it really difficult. Well, we don't find it difficult. It's not common to find someone that can really hold space for you without picking up their phone or being interrupted or being, distracted. So there's many times where I've seen examples. In fact, I had a counselling client the other day, and I felt like that I hadn't even offered much in terms of solutions. She said, all I needed was someone to really listen to me for an hour. And she felt better. We've got examples of people that have been talked back over the Golden Gate Bridge from jumping, and you ask them, why did you come back? You listened to me, you let me talk, and you listen. Imagine that. That's actually enough to save a life. Just listen. Wow. And the other thing I would suggest is, if ever you feel like, don't ever diagnose, even with the qualifications that you can get. We don't diagnose, but what I do suggest is always encourage someone to see their doctor, because you don't know. We're not medical professionals, right? We don't know whether their symptoms are in fact physical or mental, because some do show up. Like, for example, vitamin B12 deficiency can look exactly like major depression. So it's really important. Yeah, right. So that's why GP is always our first port of call, because they will test and eliminate potential physical problems, because it's always good to do that, and then look at what needs to happen after that. You can't go wrong by suggesting someone see their GP.